Action.
Hello, we're here with Grandma Peggy on 5/30/2010, and we would like to know where you met Parnelli Jones.
Your grandpa and I were invited to the Reading Fairgrounds to a sprint car race. Your grandpa was the superintendent in the mines at Bethlehem Steel, and one of his men wanted to earn brownie points and said, if you and your wife come down to the Reading Speedway, Reading Fairgrounds, I can get you into the pits. Now your wife would have to sit in the stands. So Grandma, being the wife, went and sat in the stands, and she talks and talks, and this young woman came and sat down with her, and we had a marvelous chatting time. We decided we were hungry, and we went out on the speedway grounds to buy some food, and when we came in, Grandma, being Grandma, had to eat. So she bought a program, because she didn't know anything about racing. Well, when I opened the program, they'd said Parnelli Jones. I looked at this woman and said, what kind of name is that? She said, I don't know, I'm Mrs. Jones. So we got to talking, and that was a Sunday. The next Saturday, they had to come back to Allentown, which is close to Reading. And she hoped they earned enough to get back, that he was one of his first years in USAC. He raced a lot, but not in this club, National Club. So I said, well, we have a 5-bedroom home. Why don't you stay with us? She said, well, wait till it's over and we'll go down and find out. Well, Parnelli had to be back in Indiana for an appearance, but she introduced your grandpa and I to Joe Pittman, the chief mechanic, who your grandpa had accidentally met in the pits.
No kidding.
So he knew Joe, I knew Parnelli's wife, and Joe was the chief mechanic. And Joe said, well, I would be glad to stay with you, then I don't have to make the trip. And that was the start of Grandma doing the scoring for Parnelli. Your grandpa being the pit gopher, means go for this, go for that, Frankie. He was not a mechanic, and that's how we got into racing, and we stayed in it. Grandpa stayed in it from 60 to 72, and Grandma stayed from 60 till 86, and then she retired.
Nice.
What is your favorite racing story about Kyle Snyder?
Your dad, you mean, or you? No, I think Dad. Your dad and I went to a race out in Lexington, Ohio. It was called Mid-Ohio Race Course. And it rained, and we were sleeping in a tent. We had a heck of a good time. But anyway, on the way home, something in the car started bang, 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 clang, clang, clang. And we both got excited. It was just your dad and I. So we pulled to the side of the road. Here we had an old car, and it had rusted in the boat. It had been in an accident, but the tent sticks popped out of this hole in the back of the car, and the tent sticks were rubbing along the Pennsylvania Turnpike. That was a clatter and banging. So we put them back in and laughed all the way back here to effort again.
And Gran, my name is Luke, not Kyle.
But his name is Kyle. Kyle and I were in Ohio. You were.
I have heard that your son Kyle was on a motorcycle and was in an incident. Can you tell us about that?
Oh, all the USAC people, the workers, the drivers, their wives, the whole families were invited, oh boy, invited to a picnic, and we went. And we all had our lawn chairs, and your daddy Kyle was a friend of Roger McCluskey Jr. So Roger Jr. and your dad were playing around there, and Roger Jr. went and got his motorcycle, so Roger Sr. gave your dad a motorcycle to ride. So he's riding around the campground, and after a while, he ran over one of the USAC officials, an old man sitting on a lawn chair. I was so embarrassed, and the kid, and your dad just looked and walked away, and Roger Sr., the owner, who's a race car driver, walked over to me. He said, that's all right, Peggy. If I'd have a nickel for every time I wrecked, I'd be a millionaire. So he didn't think your dad didn't damage the motorcycle, he just damaged his ego.
Where is the next place you would like to go on vacation?
If I could go on vacation, which I can't, I would certainly go back to naturally racing, but I guess the seashore, because I just love the ocean, and I was only 11 months old when my parents took me there the first time, and I did not miss a year until about 2 years ago. And one of the best times was when we all went as a family. your aunts Shelley, your uncle Kyle, and their families, and your mom and dad, and you were not even born yet. Your brother Kyle was just a little twerp running up and down the boardwalk, but he loved to play the nickel stance, or he loved to gamble. He won an electric scooter.
I was born.
Yeah, I don't know what. Oh, you won animals? You guys were so lucky. I think the people on the boardwalk thought, okay, Snyders, get out of here.
Do you remember when you entered the icy contest?
Oh, yes, I sure do. Grandma loves her ices, her frozen eyes, her shaved eyes, anything like that. So my girlfriend and I were at a major discount store, and they had these ices up front. So Grandma bought herself a blueberry icy. And there she is sitting away at this. And when it was empty, I didn't want to throw the cup away because it was plastic. You know, being a hoarder, I thought, well, this I can use. In the car, I read the bottom. It says, send your name and address to, and it gave an address, and you would be eligible to win, and it gave a whole list of prizes. So when I got home, I said to Pat, my girlfriend, I'm going to enter this contest. Well, I had 4 postcards. Yeah, it was 4. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. So I sent them all in. I put my name on one. I put your name, Luke Snyder, on another with your address. I put another with Kyle Snyder and his address. And the other one I put Bryce Vernon, who is your cousin. It's your Aunt Sally's son from Colorado. So one day I'm sitting here and my UPS man is I've known him for years. He threw a box on the front porch. He says, Peggy, I got something for you. And I went and opened it, and I had a bicycle. I won a bicycle from this ice contest. So I was so excited. So I called Aunt Sally called me, and I said to Aunt Sally, guess what I just won? She said, well, is it bigger than mine? I said, what did you win? She said, a bicycle from Icy. So Aunt Sally had a bicycle. Grandma had a bicycle. So then we called Dad to make sure Dad had you had a bicycle, and your brother Kyle had it was some kind of a game for a computer, but he had it so he printed it on another game. So all 4 of my postcards won. So you can see what the averages were there. Grandma sent 4 in and 4 winners. There sure must not have been a lot of people who read the fine print on the bottom of their icy cup. So remember, not just in insurance and things you buy, always read the fine print. And these kids in these flats, these kids, one in Missouri and one in Florida, one of their class, I think they're in first or second grade, had to
It's second.
Email this to people and get stories tell them why Flat Stanley would visit their area. So I got this. It was a cardboard thing, or a construction paper thing, colored with a little picture of the little boy on top. And the one from Missouri came first. And he said, I'm Flat Stanley. Tell me what I should see in your area. So we had to fill it out as how old Flat Stanley we think he is. We took him to Hershey to go through the Hershey factory. We took him on the horse and buggy rides. We took him to the Strasburg Railroad, all things that you had seen. So I sent it back, and the little boy was so thrilled he even called. The one from Florida, I never heard from him, but I guess he got it. So those are kids that sisters were growing up. Grandpa had decided to, I wouldn't say what he decided to do.
A story about some of the famous people you have met.
Well, one that really comes to mind, who's kind of hilarious now. The year was 1964. I was pregnant with your Aunt Sally. And
tell us a story about some of the famous people you have met.
The year was 1963. Parnelli had just won the Indy 500. And it was a joke among the team, Joe Pittman and Parnelli, that if it's a little girl, Joe Pittman would be godfather. If it's a boy, Parnelli would be godfather. But I wasn't feeling too well, and we were out there at the Speedway Motel. Your grandpa went with the teams over to Indianapolis Raceway Park, and Curry and I stayed back at the motel. It was kind of a cloudy day, but he wanted to swim. So we walked over from the motel through the macadam parking lot into the pool. And he's having a great time, and I'm sitting reading, and there's a man on the other side of the pool reading. Finally, he gets up and hollers at Curry, "Can you not talk English? Don't you speak English?" And poor Curry didn't understand him. He swam over to that side of the pool, hung on to the side of the pool, and said, "What?" By then the man sat down and said, "Forget it." So Curry swam away, and I knew what he was after. Just like I have an accent, Pennsylvania Dutch accent, so did Curry. And this man was disgusted that we had this accent. He thought he's big, we're just this low. So we're sitting there, and after a while, he owned a part owner of a race team. His race team came back to the motel, and Dr. Lucelle was the driver. They had the old Indy cars on the trailer, and we traveled with open trailers. And I looked at this man, I knew him. I said, "Where did they finish?" He said, "None of your business." So I sat back down again, and after a while, here comes your grandpa and Joe Pittman, and I don't know if Parnelli was along or not, but Johnny Cables was along, and McCluskey was along, and in the car next, I think, was the Dean Van Lines with Clint Pro. But anyway, it was a group of people that we all traveled with. And when Roger got out of the car, knowing me the best of, other than Parnelli, he hollered, "Hey, sweetheart, look who's on the pool," and he pointed to Parnelli. By then, this guy realized, uh-oh, I think these people know those people. So when he went to walk out, I walked over, and Joe Pittman and one of the other men were at the fence. I said, "You know, that was Dick Smothers." Joe said, "Well, we know they didn't do anything today." I said, "Well, Dick thinks they did. He made fun of us all day." So that was the end of the story until later in the evening. We decided we'd all go to a smorgasbord, a buffet type thing. I really don't know how many, but I know it was your grandpa and I, and probably Joe and 4, 5, 6 other people. And of course, Dick Smothers was standing there. And somebody said, "Are you going along?" He said, "Well, I have to wait till I get my girlfriend out here." So this is the man who made fun of Curry for not speaking English. His girlfriend comes out of the motel, walks across the parking lot, and to get into the pool, there was about a 2-foot, maybe 4-foot square indentation in the concrete. It had a little water in it. You were to walk through that water to wash your feet off before you got into the pool, like at the beach with sand. You might have gravel or something on your feet. So we're sitting there, and here comes Dick's girlfriend, and she comes across the parking lot and dipsy-doo, right through this water puddle. She had on high fancy heels and a fancy dress. She's got her feet wet. She's splashed her dress, and your grandma, me, with her big mouth, sat there and said, "Dick, can't she read English?" Because the sign said, "Wash your feet." So that was the end of the knowing Dick Smothers.